Today I'm going to be covering a very simple fishing technique which catches a whole heap of fish. From Australian salmon, bream, mullet, a whole heap of different species you can catch doing this. And I'm going to be running through the entire process, from my combo to my hooks, baits, burley, the areas, everything I'm doing today I'm going to run over to help you out as well. If you have some kids or if you're just looking to get out and have some fun doing the most basic of fishing, this technique's a real good one. Starting off with the location. Now, any little small estuary, river or creek will do. You can see here I have this big creek which stretches up and along here, and we actually have a second feeder creek which feeds into the main system here. So that's a perfect spot to look, especially for mullet and Australian salmon. There'll be heaps of little bait fish and nutrients running out of this creek, and then the mullet and the salmon will be there. So we've chosen our spot right next to these two little creeks here. Now I'm just going to run through everything I have in my bag for the day's fishing. Going to be keeping it very, very simple and basic today. I've got burley. So the burley we're going to be using is some white bread. White bread's really, really good just for attracting fish, especially mullet and salmon and stuff like that. So I've got a bag of white bread here, and the main bait which we're going to be using is chicken. So all I'm going to do is cut up some tiny little strips and pieces of chicken, put that on our paternoster rig, which I'll get into in just a second, and that's going to be our bait. So bread for burley, chicken for bait, and then all I've got in here is just a bunch of spare rigs. So I've got some small sinkers, some tiny little hooks, some swivels, and just all the bare essentials for the rigs I'll be making and using. The first thing which I've just done is got out a little bit of that bread. Now what I'm going to do is crunch it up. So I've got a little bit there. I'm just going to roll that up in my hands. I'll put a little bit of water on it so it'll break up nicely, and then I'm just going to chuck that out. Just going to slowly start to burley up the area, so when we're ready to fish, that burley's had time to settle and hopefully some fish have found it and gathered around. Now I'm going to be going over the rig and the rod which I'm using. So pretty basic lightweight setup, just a 1000 size reel, 1 to 3 kilo rod, 10 pound braid and an 8 pound leader on the setup. So what we've got here is pretty much just a very basic paternoster rig. So down the bottom we have a very small sinker, absolutely tiny as you can see, and then a little bit up, actually a fair way up, because I want the baits to be slightly off the bottom. We're chasing mullet. Most of the time the mullet are slightly elevated off the bottom. We've got one hook probably 20 centimeters up, and then another one another 5 to, or probably 10 centimeters up again. So got a double hook rig, two tiny little hooks. If you want to know the exact ones I'm using, they are a size 12, well there it is there, BKK size 12 little long shank hook. This is going to be perfect for threading on little strips of chicken which we'll be using for bait. Chicken, that's our bait, chicken breast. This was going to be edible but no longer. Now bait. It's fairly frozen at the moment, so all I'm going to do is just take a thin slither off the top, and that's what we'll work with. There's our chicken. Not an ideal chopping spot, but I'm just going to cut it into small strip-like pieces, just like that. Some fairly small little bits. Let's put this chicken on so you can see just how small this hook is. Tiny little hook, and we've got our two little strips of chicken. This bit of chicken's got some nice fat in it. I reckon the fat is better. I reckon they like it. So I'm just going to thread that on just a couple times like that. So we have a little bit dangling down the bottom and a good amount of chicken still on the hook. Put a little bit on this other hook as well. Thread that through 2-3 times. And that's good. So that's our little setup. 2 bits of chicken, one on the top hook there, another one down on the bottom, and then our sinker. So now we're ready to give it a crack, see if the burley which we've thrown out has been working, and I'll show you the technique which I'm going to be using to try and attract these mullet. I've been burling up this area just in front of me here fairly heavily. We'll see if that's attracted any fish. Sometimes when you're doing this type of fishing you have to move around a fair bit to try and find the fish. Other times you can get a little bit lucky. So I'm just going to let that sit on the bottom for a second under a fairly tight line. I want those hooks to be dangling up in the air, so by me holding the rod tip out like that, that chicken will be waving around in the water column. So I'm just going to slowly wind that along the bottom, loosen that drag with only targeting small fish. And usually if they're around, they'll hit it fairly quickly and aggressively. Mullet are actually pretty fun to catch. Oh, I think I just had a little hit there. Mullet are actually real fun to catch when they're around, and for whatever reason they like a slightly moving bait. So I just slowly wind the bait along the bottom. That seems to be when you get the most hits. Nothing. Just had a couple little taps on that cast though, so I know that there is something around. If it's mullet, it could be salmon, toadfish, who really knows, but there's some sort of activity in the area. You can see the conditions we're dealing with. It's really, really windy, rainy, water's dirty. Conditions aren't really favourable, but there's always some sort of fishing to do. On days like this, you can still get out here, target some mullet, some salmon, have a little bit of fun doing something different. Oh, that was a good hit. So now that I know that there's some potential mullet and fish in the area, I'm not going to burley up too heavily now. I don't want them to get full. So I'm just going to throw tiny little bits out every now and again around my bait. But for the most part, I know there's, oh, that was a good hit. I know there's fish here now, so I'm not going to burley. I'm just going to focus. Oh, another good hit. I'm just going to focus on my bait. Yep, there's a fish. There's a fish. Oh, there we go. We got something. What is that? Oh, it's a good mullet. There we go. That is what we're after. A really solid mullet. I don't know if you just saw, but I just threw some burley out and might have worked. Might have encouraged a bite right there. Very nice. On the bottom hook on that little bit of chicken. Had him pin well. I reckon that size 12 hook is just perfect. First one down, our technique worked. Haven't been throwing a whole heap of burley out since I know that they're in the area. And there we go, had a whole heap of bites. Got our first fish within 10 minutes. Just tiny little bits of chicken. Look at that. That's just mullet candy. It's been a little while since my last cast. Had a massive tangle. That's how it goes in fishing sometimes. It's not always fun, but we're back out in the exact same spot where we caught that last mullet. See if there's any more. Quite typically they are a school fish though, so there should be more around. Might give it a couple more casts, and if I don't get any more bites, I'll throw out just a tiny bit more burley, but see if we can get one here. There we go, another one. Oh, taking a lot of line. Geez, is that a mullet? No way that's a mullet. It feels like a really good fish. Going up around in the reeds. Surely that's not a mullet. Oh my God, it's a massive mullet. Let's see if we can get him up. That is a stonker of a mullet. Look at that for a mullet. I really didn't think that was going to be a mullet. He fought super hard. Who said mullet don't fight hard? He went crazy. How good is this? A super-sized mullet. The most basic form of fishing, but who says you can't have a lot of fun? I'm really happy with that. That's one of the biggest mullet I've ever caught doing this. And you can catch a whole heap of different stuff as well. Like I've caught Australian salmon, brim, bunch of different species doing this very, very simple technique. Just slowly winding the chicken along the bottom, giving it some pauses every now and again. It really works. It's such a good thing if you have kids or something, or just want to come out, only have a couple of hours. It's a very good way to spend an afternoon or a morning. It doesn't always happen, just like every form of fishing. There's always those quiet days, those patches where the fish are just shut down, but doing this really basic form of fishing, you do have a good shot to get numbers of fish when they are feeding. Oh, I think I had a little bite there. There we go, another one. I think it's another big one too. Oh, it is another big one. Wow, there he is there, once again on that tiny little hook. I reckon these size 12s are perfect for what we're doing here. Look at that, it's another cracking size mullet. This is super, super fun. Man, I love this stuff. I love every type of fishing, even the most basic stuff. I still have a blast doing it. And that pretty much sums up my basic method to catch a whole heap of fish. We caught 7 mullet in just over an hour, so a really hot little session. But more importantly, I hope you learned something from this video. If you did, be sure to give this one a like, comment your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Good fun little session.